Well, hi, everybody. I'm Joe Gigrich. I'm the managing partner of GigWorks. And today we're going to be looking at how to reimagine SharePoint for the modern enterprise, and with a particular look toward a modern look and feel that will appeal to customers who have become used to, as we would refer to, the retail effect of a good-looking site in a way that's easy to do and maintain. So a little bit about us. We've won multiple awards over the years. Company's been around going on 20 years, 18, so closing in there. We're virtual technology specialists from Microsoft's New York Enterprise Group and have worked across a number of industries, particularly across professional services, legal firms, departments, architecture and engineering. And we have full expertise around the Microsoft stack, and for those of you who may be in the AEC, as well as Autodesk and a couple of other products that sit out there. So one of the key things to driving SharePoint adoption and success is the user experience, the information architecture, and training up your employees and really passing on to them how to use the system, not just sort of dumping on them. So key to success, I've often said, co-opting the key to real estate as being location, location, location. I always lead with UX, UX, UX. And so with that, you have to have a compelling homepage. This is what brings the community together, something for everybody. And then with it, of course, department sites and dashboards. And this typically we recommend that you target at the CXOs, the people and the executives within your organization who are looking to achieve operational efficiency and make their day easier. One of the key ways to drive both sets of experiences is through search. And having a templated or way to roll out and iterate the various look and feel that you need to support your successful intranet. Now, likewise, information architecture. Information architecture is a particular specialization of our firm. And with that, governance, navigation, and search, how you orchestrate the data that goes behind that presentation is really the underpinning that drives that success. And so with it, the user adoption is driven by user experience. Build it and they will not come. So you want to make sure this is an enhanced experience. And SharePoint out of the box has some great usability features such as search and previewing, but it really has not changed in look and feel for quite some time, and it was never one of its strong suits, to be clear. And so as we move through this, sorry, just going back here. Button. There we go. And so if you're going to transform that intranet, we've been doing this for a long time. We've assisted a number of our clients in terms of that design and feel. But one of the things, and I'll get to this in the next slide, is to understand the role of ISVs and why the best of breed is really something to lead with. So having done SharePoint since the 2003 iteration, used to spend quite amount of time building customizations in Visual Studio that were higher risk, had scalability issue. And with it, as time has progressed and the wide set adoption of SharePoint, a number of very notable third-party solutions came into the marketplace that we view from either enhancing functionality or that have particular relevance to industries. And so going back to usability and UX, look and feel used to be very time consuming. It would take up a lot of budget. And so we lead with LiveTiles now for those of our customers who are looking for a more compelling and modern look and feel. It's the better bet. It's safe. You're guaranteed that it will always scale as Microsoft changes. They're always ahead of that curve and working with Microsoft. You never have to worry about it. And what works on-prem will also work in the cloud. And that's why best of breed for all those things I just mentioned. Product and solution support. And these folks have already figured out a lot of these things. So LiveTiles design. LiveTiles, all-in-one content collaboration integrations. It was designed for SharePoint, Office 365, and Azure. And as you'll see with most modern third-party applications that ISVs, independent software vendors, represent, is this notion of drop and drag. It's what everybody knows in their daily life. And so the ability to drop and drag tiles into a canvas and quickly assemble it means that your employees are now empowered to design as you go forward and maintain. And so as you iterate this out, you'll be in control of those future design decisions and have a way that facilitates their implementation. So it's simple, it's engaging, and it's efficient. And the simplicity, no code, drop and drag. And with that reduction in clicks in that modern UI, you will drive adoption, and you'll engage your employees and bring them to the intranet, build it, and give them a reason to come. And of course, efficiency. It really dramatically reduces the development time and associated costs with the implementation of a custom look and feel, and is guaranteed to scale. That one person who built it, you don't have to depend upon them. You have an entire company that ensures continuity as you go forward. And so LiveTiles works with a number of systems, connects to a number of systems. It's not just about SharePoint. Modernity is about a cloud ecosystem, of which SharePoint is commonly a hub. But LiveTiles, like the rest of us in the industry, recognize that Office 365 sits within that cloud, but the idea is to connect the cloud in a way that your users can connect with in a single way. And so with that, I'd like to turn this over to our friends at LiveTiles for demonstration.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction and touching on a lot of the bullet points that we try to cover. So I'll just introduce myself quickly. I am Miguel. I am part of the LiveTiles team based out of here in New York City. I'm part of the Innovation and Experience team, and I'm going to take you through LiveTiles experience starting right now. So I'll just jump right into it. As you can see, to piggyback on the points that that Joe mentioned, this is a modern UX UI experience. So this looks nothing like SharePoint. I can reassure you that it absolutely is SharePoint. As you can see, we've got the ability to jump into SharePoint right here at the top, that Office 365 homepage, and access to every app in the Office 365 stack out of the gate. However, we wanted to really update that user experience, that look and feel of SharePoint, and hang in there with the best of the modern web grade kind of design tools like Wix and Squarespace. So as I scroll down, you'll see that this is a completely visual experience. It's very engaging. You've got different information on the page, and that's part of one of the tenets of LiveTiles is, yes, you've got your Office 365, yes, you've got your SharePoint, but as Joe was saying, it's really about pulling together all the applications that you need and aggregating that information into a single screen, a single pane of glass, a seamless experience. So I'm going to touch on a few things. First thing I'm going to touch on is look and feel, and later on in the presentation I'll get into how we create that look and feel. I'm going to touch on the aggregation of information and disparate apps, and I'm going to touch on that seamless experience, that reducing number of clicks that Joe mentioned as well. And so I can show you first and foremost how we do that right now. So if anybody's experienced SharePoint, as I'm sure you all have, if you're familiar with that back end, you know that you click on something and it opens up more somethings. You open up more windows, and eventually you've navigated completely away from where you started. And so LiveTiles, we try our best to reduce that. So you can see here, if I click on more, I have a nice little modal slide that my information is displayed in. And that includes the attached image, that includes full abilities to edit, to delete, and to share. More so, keeping me out of that SharePoint backend, keeping me out of the clunkiness of that experience. If I click here on sample news, my entire list or library will load in this slide dialog, and I'll be able to add new content, including attachments, directly from this little modal slide out here. So again, streamlining that experience and making sure that your users can get the most out of their experience when they're on your hub or your intranet. You can see here that I can also search content in window. And that experience extends to a lot of the other elements on the page. You can see that I have a document search here. You can see that if I click on a document here, that's also going to load up in a modal window. We can actually choose the way that we display content. So there are currently a few different options. So you can have content displayed in page. You can have content open up in a new page. You can have content open up in a modal dialog like this, which I have full ability to expand. And then edit, print, share, all the features that I would have in my Office 365 online experience. I have them in this modal dialog. Or you can do the same thing, but in the slide as I just showed you. Same thing with the people search. And I'm going to load up this people search because I want to get into my next point, which is, excuse me, I clicked the wrong button. Just pardon me when my screen reloads. My next point being integration. So Joe did a great job of talking about the way that we integrate with different things, mainly the Office 365 suite. So if I click here and I click the search button, you're going to see that what I'm essentially using right now, what LiveTiles is essentially leveraging, is Delve. And I've got my colleague information, and this is just dummy information, so there's not going to be a lot in there. However, the point that I'm trying to make is that you have the option, again, of leveraging information in a really convenient and seamless way. However, Joe also made a really good point of that we don't just integrate with Office 365 or SharePoint. Absolutely, this is your SharePoint library, document library in the back, and you can leverage all that information that you would. You have your SharePoint news list and news list items here and here. These can be any news list that you want. You have your calendar here, and you can change the way that that's displayed as well. But we also have third-party information. So you can see here I've got a video from YouTube displayed inline, as well as information from Power BI displayed in real time. If I click on this video, it'll play in real time. That moment when you realize. And I'm just going to shut that off, just to show you the way that we're branching out. And it's not just YouTube videos. It's not just the Office 365 LiveTiles. We can currently integrate with about 130 APIs through our network, through our partnership with Cloud Elements. And so it really is a truly extensible product. And I'll get to how we make it that extensible and how we create an experience like this, drawing on different elements, drawing on different information. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to jump into the design view. So now that I'm in design view, you can see the framework that makes up this page. And that's one of the ways that we're able to create really good looking interfaces really quickly. So Joe did mention about time and risk management, and that's exactly what LiveTiles does. You can see up here that we have this library of tiles. So currently we're at 70 plus, close to 80 tiles. And the best way to think about them is essentially pre-configured SharePoint Web Parts that our dev team has gone out and built for you so that they're immediately functional. So when you drag them onto a page, whether it's a Power BI tile or a Facebook Workplace tile or a link tile, and I will get into what some of these tiles do and their different functionalities in a second, they're all going to function in essentially the same way. They're all going to interact with either SharePoint, Office 365, or that third-party resource in essentially the same way. So it's very intuitive for your users to pick up. So you can see here in a news tile settings, we have general, we have list, we have links, text, tile behavior, as well as advanced. If I go into list and I click on this search pad, it puts me immediately into my SharePoint environment where I can just click and integrate whatever information I want into this tile. So if I want this to pick up marketing news, I just click on that and I hit select, and then this will then leverage marketing news. I also have access to all subsites, so it's not just sites in a site collection, subsites as well, so I can pull in information across an entire site collection. And that's going to be the same for this document tile. Again, instead of list, you'll see that it has documents, but the sections essentially stay the same. Now, when I move down here, I can also control what elements I want to give precedence on a page. So everything here is customizable. If I want to draw attention to this document tile, I can change the layout of this page by going to the rows here, and I can split it from 3 into a larger 3, which gives this document tile more precedence. I can then change the individual size of that document tile. I can change the background color of that document tile. I can change the header color. I can change the text color of that document tile, and I can do all this without having the code. So there's no need to hire a developer to do this work for you. You can simply have a group of power users that takes on, you know, the design work for you, and you can control what they get to design again with that audience targeting. And I'll display that right now. So let's say I want to keep this video tile on the desktop because it displays important content, but I understand that some of my users will be accessing our intranet via mobile, which is something that can be a bit onerous to do in SharePoint, something that LiveTiles makes much easier. And so I know that this video tile is going to suck up data. I know that it's going to take up space. I can go in here. I can go to tile behavior, and I can choose not to show on small devices or extra small devices. So now, when I navigate to this page from landscape mode in a phone, that tile is gone. It's been replaced. If I'm in portrait mode, that tile is gone. It's been replaced. So LiveTiles not only let you audience target for a different experience, you essentially create multiple experience, whether mobile or desktop, but in the same canvas, simply by dragging and dropping tiles into these containers here, into these rows. Now, that's a YouTube tile, which we have easily accessible from our media. We have Power BI tiles accessible from data. These are integrations that we've already created for you. Every 5 weeks, we roll out new integrations. So this product is constantly evolving. We're constantly providing new ways to leverage information, new connections into different systems. However, one of the best features and one of the pillars that makes LiveTiles so extensible is the ability for our users that no code, our users that are in-house devs or have access to their in-house dev team. We don't want to make those people feel left out. We don't want to handcuff your developers. So if you go to this developer tab here, you can actually draw in a custom tile. And this tile allows you to build other tiles and then configure them so that your users that don't have that knowledge, so that they can interact with them. You simply code for the integration that you want here. You style it here, and then you save it. And that is essentially how we create new tiles. We've given that ability over to our devs or those who have some computer science engineering background. Extensibility, being able to create a really nice experience, whether that be a single landing page or multiple department sites, as Joe mentioned, in a really quick amount of time. Everything on this page is extensible. Everything on this page can be saved, from the individual tiles that you make changes to. So if I change this header, if I change this size, if I change this layout, I can save that here by clicking on the tile, going here, and then just saving. More so, I can export saved tiles to my coworkers. So if I'm working on one department site and I've created a really useful tile, and I think, hey, maybe HR might be able to use this in a certain way. Maybe this will speed up their process. I can send them that tile that I've created. I can do that with tiles that I've changed that are pre-configured, or I can do that with tiles that I've created using the custom tile that I just showcased. More so, I can save entire pages and environments. So if I go here to the Save As feature, you can see I can save as a page, which is how you're going to save your work. I can save it as a template. So if you are working on multiple sites, or if you will be working on multiple sites, and you know that they're going to have some elements in common, you just save that as a template and you use that as your jumping off point for your next design session. More so, I can save this as an export, which means that I can export this entire page, finished and rendered with the connections enabled, to my desktop, and then I can send that to whoever might be designing a different site. So if HR needs a layout that I have access to or likes what I've done, I can simply send them that export. I can send them that page as a JSON file. So it is a truly extensible platform. And I'm just gonna back out of this and go back to the experience for a moment. Actually, before I do that, I do want to showcase one thing. So for the designers out there, it might seem like this is a lot of color. It's really visual. And you might want a simpler experience. You might want a wireframe-like experience before you start designing in product. You might be used to designing the framework of something out on paper. So LiveTiles actually takes that into account, and you can actually wireframe on the design canvas. So it immediately sucks out those colors so that you can kind of focus on what matters the most, the layout of it. And so that's just something that we've thrown in there. This is a recent integration into the platform. It wasn't available till version 4, but it's just something that we've thrown in there for our devs who are used to wireframing on paper, saying, hey, maybe now you might want to take the next step and wireframe in product. It's something that gives the product an added flair for design and continues to democratize that design process. So I'm just going to back out of wireframe mode for a moment. I'm just going to back into the finished page that I started with, because there's some more elements that I want to showcase you on the finished page. So now you've gone and finished your intranet site, right? Or your landing page, or maybe you finished the entire hub, the entire robust intranet, and you want to see how functional it is. As Joe mentioned, consumption. You want to make sure that your users are consuming, that they're using this is actually useful to them. So how does LiveTiles help you do that? So we've got new features that we've just rolled out called LiveTiles Intelligence, and it actually gives you insight into how your page is performing, how what you created is performing. So if I click on this heat map feature here, just bear with me while it loads, you'll see that everything is rendered in a kind of infrared hue from yellow to red. So yellow being the least utilized elements on a page, and red being the most utilized elements on a page. So again, you can see that there's a nice little percentage of how many people, how much traffic this element is getting up here in the top left hand corner. And you can see that this is a pretty low usage. Now this is a test page that we created just for the ability to showcase this page, but there is real data driving this. And so that's one of the ways that we allow you to see at a glance how your intranet is performing, and then maybe say, okay, so how do I make these elements better? How do I make them draw more traffic? And this is something that comes with LiveTiles. So it's already been pushed to the product, and every one of our current customers has this heat map ability. On the higher end, we have insights. So if I take off heat map and I go into insights, you're going to see some more specific data, tracking clicks, tracking what devices these page has been accessed on the most, and things of that nature. And then you have, again, those percentages for each of the elements. So a bit more insight into the page. And now I just want to back out completely from this LiveTiles page, this experience that I've kind of showed you and gotten you familiar with, because I do want you to understand that you are not limited in the design aspects of what you build. So that was one page, but I can easily show you another page that has a completely different look to it. We can go further down to specific use cases, like news communication sites. So you can see that this home page here, completely different experience, connections to Box, connections to Jira, Salesforce, DocuSign, things of that nature, a calendar. You've got different sections here at the bottom. So you've got your social media tiles, which we do integrations with. You've got different news lists here. So you're really unlimited in the way that you choose to leverage the abilities that LiveTiles gives to you. It's a really flexible, user-friendly experience that's incredibly powerful because of the ways that you can extend it, either through templating, through exporting files that you've already created, or through integrating with different systems that you normally wouldn't be able to access in that Office 365 suite.
All right. As always, want to thank everybody for coming out today. And as always, anything we can do for you guys, love what we do and happy to advise folks as they come our way. Thank you to everybody, and see you next time.